Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at transformations, and more specifically we're going to look at the transformation called reflections. Remember that a transformation is a function that describes a change in the position, size, or shape of a figure. Last time we looked at what was called a translation, and remember all that did was slide a shape from one spot to another spot. Today we're going to look at a reflection. A reflection flips a figure across a line, and in this case our line will either be the y-axis or the x-axis. And also recall that the shape that we see is called the pre-image, and the pre-image here is before the image is moved. So the pre-image is like the starting position, and when we reflect this triangle over the x-axis or the y-axis, that new triangle is going to be called the image. So let's look at this first one. It says to reflect the triangle over the y-axis. Think of a reflection. Think of yourself looking in a mirror, and it's the exact, when you look in the mirror, that's a reflection. Or if you look into a puddle of water and you see yourself, that's also a reflection. A reflection looks the same on either side, and so in this case our y-axis is going to represent the mirror, and so our triangle, this pre-image here, is going to be reflected across this mirror or the y-axis. The reflecting a triangle or any shape is all about counting the distance it is away from the mirror. So in this case, if we look at z, it's 1 away from our mirror, and so we'll count over 1 the opposite way and put a point, and that is now z prime. Same with y. Y is 1, 2, 3, 4 away from the mirror, and so we'll count 1, 2, 3, 4 away on the opposite side. And now this is called y prime. And then x prime is 1, 2, 3, 4 away. So we'll count 1, 2, 3, 4 away again. And this is called x prime. When we connect our dots, this is now our image. It's the shape after the reflection takes place. Okay, let's see what really happened. So we're going to look at the point x and x prime. X started out at 4, 4. X prime ended up being at -4, 4. So we're trying to figure out maybe what changed from 4, 4 to -4, 4. So the rule here is if we start with a normal xy coordinate, like 4, 4, for a reflection over the y-axis, if you notice this first point, the first number, which is represented with an x, like remember x is first, it changed, but the y value here did not. And it's not like we're adding or subtracting like what we did with a translation. Here it's all about the opposite. So it went from a +4 to a -4. So it took the opposite of x, and then y stayed the same. So please note that this negative here, that's not a negative symbol. It means the opposite of. If it had gone from a negative to a positive, we still would have this little symbol here showing, oh, it took the opposite of x. And then again, the y stays the same. So this is a reflection over the y-axis. Now the next one tells us to reflect the triangle, the pre-image, over the x-axis. So again, it's all about finding the distance away from the mirror. So for z here, it's a distance of 1, so we'll just count 1 down. And again, we're reflecting over this x-axis here. Y is a distance of 1 away from the mirror, so we'll count 1 down. So this is now z prime, and this is y prime. and x is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 away, so we'll count 1, 2, 3, 4 down, and this is now x prime. And when we connect the dots, this forms our new image. Alright, so we've reflected over the x-axis, we have our image, and so let's just compare the point y and y prime. So y started out at 4, 1, and then it ended up going to y prime, which was is now at 4, negative 1. If you notice, something did change. Now the 4 actually stayed the same. It stayed positive. The 1 went from a positive to a negative. So for a reflection over the x-axis, we start with the coordinate x, comma, y. And if you notice, the x value ended up staying the same this time. And this time it was the y value that changed, and it went to the opposite of y. Please note that is not a negative sign, it means the opposite of. Alright, let's talk about the orientation, the size, and the shape. So the orientation, remember, is the shape's direction. And so did the shape change directions when it was flipped or reflected? And yes, it did. It's not facing the same direction anymore either time. Like for the reflection over the x-axis, it went upside down. And then the reflection over the y-axis, it ended up facing a different direction as well. So this did change. The size of the shape, when we reflect this, it actually stays the same size, so this ended up staying the same. And then the shape is still stayed a triangle. It didn't change to a square when we reflected, so this also stays the same. Alright guys, we're looking at reflections today. Remember, a reflection is like a flip, either across the x-axis or the y-axis. We learned 2 rules. So a reflection over the y-axis, we have to remember that we took the opposite of x. And then for a reflection over the x-axis, we took the opposite of the y value. Thank you guys for watching.